So, the last time I talked about Charlie Kirk, he was justifying violence against children, bombings of hospitals, the weaponized starvation of a civilian population on the grounds that there's good guys and there's bad guys, and the good guy violence is good by definition because they're good guys. The time before that, he was justifying the subjugation of women on the grounds that God created them to nurture babies and serve their husbands, so they'd probably be happier kept back in the kitchen and out of the classroom. Just a few weeks ago, he was arguing that what happened to him was justified by saying this.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year.
Of course, now that he himself has become one of those gun deaths, we can't ask him if he still thinks it's worth it. But the thing is, I disagree with Charlie Kirk. I don't want to use his words to justify what happened to him because I disagreed with those words when he spoke them, and I disagree with them still. See, Charlie Kirk spoke words for a living, right? And he said some pretty reprehensible things, in my opinion, but he also invited people to contradict him. He brought a microphone for the audience too. He asked people to stand up and tell him to his face why they thought he was wrong. He invited debate. I think killing someone like this is inherently a cowardly thing to do. I think supporting the killing of someone like this is inherently a cowardly thing to do. See, the thing is, I too say controversial things on the internet, and you might not think it's the same thing because the things I say are not so reprehensible in your opinion, but I promise you, there are people who do not share your opinion. There are people who would celebrate my demise or someone like me and call that justice as well. So when we advocate on behalf of protecting free speech, it's very important to remember it's not an argument to protect the specific speech of the individual in question. It's an argument to protect the idea that nobody gets to draw the line. Nobody gets to determine based on their opinion at what point a violent response becomes justified. Now, for those of you that are celebrating this, I'd ask you to point me to exactly what about this you believe to be meaningful. Because surely, for an action to be justified, it has to be tangibly meaningful, and I can't see the meaning here. Is the sort of speech that this man promoted going to lose its popularity now? Because I immediately see the opposite happening. Is the movement that he spoke on behalf of going to lose its popularity? Because I immediately see the opposite happening. Donald Trump immediately went on television to squeeze this opportunity for every drop it was worth to reignite support from his base. A base that was quite frankly in desperate need of reignition, considering his increasingly undeniable ties to this situation, or the fact that this situation is not only still ongoing, but escalating, despite the fact that he promised it was easily solved and he'd have it over before he even took office. See, this here is a victimhood cult, right? It's very easy to drum up support for that when you can cast yourself as the underdog fighting the big establishment behemoth. But when you're the big establishment behemoth, you either have to produce the results, release the files, end the conflict, or you need to reinforce the victimhood mentality by giving your followers a tangible enemy. Which is why it should surprise no one that this man is on television with no suspect, no motive, no evidence, immediately pointing fingers and calling for loyalty.
From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, to the attacks on ICE agents, the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people. Tonight I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died: the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God.
See, this is rhetorical propaganda 101, connecting this thing to that thing, associating them together as a single issue, then connecting them to you through your sense of identity, your patriotism, or your religion. Charlie Kirk got attacked, me and Charlie Kirk got attacked, me and Charlie Kirk and ICE got attacked, you, me and Charlie Kirk and the billionaires are under attack. God wants you to pray for Charlie Kirk. God wants you to pray for Charlie Kirk and join ICE to protect me and the billionaires from the radical left. God wants the billionaires to surveil the American people to protect the American people from the radical left. See, talking heads are replaceable, but symbols like this, they're harder to make. And the Trump administration have already made it abundantly clear that this man is infinitely more valuable to their agenda today than he was a few days ago.